Advanced installation topics. Wouldn't it be great if the operating system would just simply install itself and you didn't have to worry about this at all? And maybe then you could have lunch once in a while. Well, in this video we're going to see how we can come very, very close to this possibility. We're going to first look at how to save all of our user settings before we blow the machine away and start the clean installation process. And then we're going to see how we can automate the installation process by creating a file which contains all the answers for the installation prompts. And this file can be used for an over-the-network installation and a clone-based installation using Microsoft's System Preparation tool. So let's get started and see how this works. Now, installing the operating system is only half the battle. After the operating system has been installed, you typically have to reconfigure all the user's settings for their word processor applications, their email applications, all their shortcuts and favorites, and all those type of settings also consume a lot of time after the installation of Windows XP has occurred. Well, you can save yourself a lot of time by capturing those settings using two methods that are available in Windows XP. So before you actually take out FDisk to reformat a user's computer, or before you give a user a brand new computer with Windows XP, capture all their critical settings, bundle them up, and then reapply those same settings to their new computer or their reformatted computer with Windows XP. So let's take a look at how we can use two options to capture and reload those settings. Our first option for capturing user and system settings is a GUI-based tool called the File and Settings Transfer Wizard. And that's located off your Start, All Programs, Accessories, and System Tools. And here's our tool. It's also called FAST for short. Files, Settings, and Transfer Wizard. Let's fire this puppy up. And it's asking us two things. Is this the target computer that we want to apply all the captured settings onto, or is this the old computer, our old Windows 98, Windows Millennium computer that we want to bundle up and capture all of our settings? So let's pretend this is our old computer, and now the wizard is going through and just seeing all the applications that are installed, all the settings that here, and it's just finding and scanning your entire computer for all of its settings. And now it's asking you, how are you going to store these settings? Direct cable connection, some removable media, maybe a zip drive, something like that, or simply store all the settings on a network file server somewhere. So let's use the network file server option and locate a file server in your environment that you've previously created a SharePoint on for all of your users. I've created a SharePoint here called Profiles, and I want to store all of the settings for this particular user in that user's directory. So you click on OK, and then choose what do you actually want to capture, the settings, the files, or both. If you choose both, depending on how much data you have, this capture file could be quite large. So this process of transferring the files and capturing it certainly could take quite a few minutes if you have a lot of data that you need to capture. So once the data is captured, you then go to the target computer, run the Files Settings Transfer Wizard, say this is the new computer, then point to the network location that you had saved the files to, and all those files will automatically get incorporated and applied to the new installation of Windows XP. And this really saves you a lot of time in the post-installation of reconfiguring a user's computer. So the Files and Settings Transfer Wizard is a built-in tool that allows you to capture these settings, and it's best used for maybe small offices, small businesses where you have the time to go to each computer and capture these settings. However, with large organizations, this method of having a user go to every single computer in your organization, if you have 5,000 computers, you would have to run this utility on all 5,000 computers. That is certainly very time consuming. Microsoft has made it available another tool called the User State Migration tool to capture these same settings in a corporate environment. Let's take a look at that tool next. The Windows XP Professional CD contains a copy of the user state migration tool, and it also contains a standalone version of the Files and Settings Transfer Wizard that you can use to grab the settings from your old computer and then transfer them to your new Windows XP computer. Let's take a look at our CD right now by clicking on our Start button, go to My Computer, and just double click on our Windows XP CD icon, and then click on Perform Additional Tasks. If you wanted to capture your settings from your old computer, you would click on the Transfer Files and Settings link, which would fire up the GUI interface for the Files and Settings Transfer Wizard. We want to copy the User State Migration tool off the CD, so we're going to click on Browse this CD to do that. Next, we're going to the Value Add directory, and now we're going to the Microsoft directory, and in here we have a directory called USMT, which is short for User State Migration Tool. Let's copy that directory to any location. I'm just going to copy it to my C drive. And now that we have that on our C drive, let's go take a look at the directory we just copied. Scoot down here a little bit. There are many files in this directory, and the two key files we're concerned about right now is load state, and if we scoot down here just a little bit, and scan state. Scan state is an application that's used to capture all the settings from your old computer, and then load state is used to apply the settings that were captured to a new computer. Both these applications have to run within a command prompt environment. So let's take a look at how we run load state and scan state next. To start using these tools, you would first go to your target computer and open up a command prompt. So let's do that by clicking on Start, click on Run, and then just type in CMD to open up a command prompt. And then the next thing you would have to do is change directories to execute the scan state from the USMT directory, or a real quick way to execute any command line executable in the command prompt is this. Just select scan state and drag and drop. Ooh, the crowd goes mild. Hey, it saves you a little bit of time. Now, the next thing we have to do is choose a location to where we're going to upload all these user settings that scan state will capture. I'm going to use the UNC path to a file server that I have called DC Nuggets, to the SharePoint called Profiles, and a directory in that SharePoint called Todd. And then the next thing is just to simply press the Enter key. And the benefits of using scan state and load state are number one, that these are scriptable, so you can include this in a logon script to capture all the user settings when they log on. And number two, you can customize the use of these tools through INF files as well to capture specific user settings, specific application settings, and so forth. So this tool is really excellent for corporate environments that need to capture many computer settings very quickly. To finish this off, you would then go to the target computer and run load state once you've pointed to all the settings that you've captured. So that's all there is to it, to running these tools. And next we're going to look at how to automate the installation process now that we've captured all of our user settings. So now that we've saved all of our user settings, we can choose from 3 different clean installation methods to deploy Windows XP to our target computer. We can use the network installation method by including an answer file to answer all the installation prompts to automate or make sure this is an unintended installation. Or if we prefer to use a disk imaging solution, we can use a Microsoft tool called the System Preparation Tool to prepare the computer to be imaged using a third-party disk imaging tool such as Ghost or Drive Image, but to also automate this type of installation by including an answer file. And the third method is to deploy images of Windows XP from a Windows 2000 server or a Windows.NET server that's running the remote installation service. This we'll look at in our next video here. The first option, the network installation option, requires several steps, and let's look at those steps right now. What I'd like you to do is think about our network distribution share that we have on DC Nuggets. Remember, we copied the contents of the i386 directory onto the DC Nuggets, and that is our distribution share for Windows XP. Think of that share point as a crock pot. It's just kind of simmering. We've got a base stew in there right now. But what we have to do is add some vegetables and potatoes to automate the process of installing Windows XP, because right now all we have is a fancy method for starting the installation of Windows XP, but you still have to sit there and answer all the installation prompts. So we're going to throw some meat and potatoes into that crock pot, and the meat and potatoes are right here, our answer file and a uniqueness database file. The answer file is just a little text file which is going to contain all the answer prompts that we'd normally be prompted for during the installation process. However, that answer file contains the unique information for a single computer, such as its computer name. So if we have 500 to 5,000 computers in our organization, each and every one of those computers would have the same computer name. So to combat that problem, we're going to include another file called the uniqueness database file, which includes the unique information for every computer that we want to deploy Windows XP to in our organization. So this file might have the 5 to 5,000 computer names and maybe their unique TCP/IP addresses and other unique information. Then we take those files, place them in our crockpot, which is our distribution share on DC Nuggets, go to our target computer, put it in our network boot disk, and then start the installation by using WinNT with these switches. And that's what we're going to look at next, is see how we can create the answer files, place them in our distribution share, and then kick off the installation. Microsoft has provided a utility called the Setup Manager to create the answer file and the uniqueness database file, and that utility is located on your Windows XP CD. Let's go and grab that utility now by clicking on our Start button. Go to My Computer. Let's cruise out to our XP CD. Click on Perform Additional Tasks. Click on Browse the CD. Then we're going to the Support directory, and then we're going to drill down into the Tools directory. And in here we're looking for a file called deploy.cab. And this is a cabinet file that contains the Setup Manager and the system preparation tool that we're going to use for deploying Windows XP using third-party disk utility software. So what we're going to do here is just simply grab all these files so we can demonstrate both examples of network installation and sysprep installations. With these files selected, just right-click on the file, choose Extract, and extract these files to any location, your desktop, network location, local location. I created a folder ahead of time called Deploy. I'm going to copy and extract those files to the Deploy directory. And next, let's go to that directory and start up Setup Manager. So here's our Deploy directory, and if we scoot down here a little bit, here's Setup Manager. It's just a GUI-based interface that creates the answer file and the uniqueness database file. For those of you that are familiar with this tool with Windows NT and Windows 2000, this tool has been upgraded to include some additional features for Windows XP. So let's fire up this tool and see how to create these files. Just double click on the Setup Manager icon to fire up the Setup Manager wizard here. And we have the option right off the bat to create a brand new file or modify and tweak an existing file. Go with the new file. And this is a very important screen. Do we want to create an answer file for 3 types of installation methods that we just talked about a moment ago? The default is the network unattended method, or we can use the sysprep method or the remote installation method with a Windows 2000 or Windows.NET server. Let's go with the first option here. And do we want to use this with these operating system editions or a server edition, what's now called Windows.NET Server, an advanced server and data center? Stick with Windows XP Professional. And we want to fully automate the installation process. Thank you very much. And Setup Manager is a kind, helpful tool, and that'll help us to create the distribution folder on a network location if we have not already created it. We have created it, so let's choose the second option, but you say, well, wait a second, Todd, this says you can only use this answer file with a CD. Well, that's a little ambiguous. It's kind of an either or. If we choose this radio button, we can actually use the resulting answer file with a CD-based installation using the WinNT32 command, or we can use this answer file by just placing it in our distribution SharePoint. Now, if you are going to use this answer file for a CD-based installation, something to take note of is this. Let me just fire up our little whiteboard here for a second. The default answer file name is called unattend.txt. That's the default name. If you choose that second radio button to create an answer file to be used with the CD, what you have to do is rename this answer file from unattend.txt to winnt.sif. Then you're going to take this file and you're going to put it on a floppy disk and start the installation process with your Windows XP CD as normal. Then as soon as the blue text mode install screen fires up, put it in your floppy disk and the installation will look for the presence of this file, and if it finds that file, it'll use the contents of the file to automate the installation of a CD-based install of Windows XP. But the key thing here is you have to rename the file from unattend.txt to winnt.sif. So let's go back to our setup manager and continue along our path here. Yes, I don't want to stop the installation process to agree to the end user license agreement, so I'm going to accept that ahead of time. Thank you very much. And then the rest of the prompts are just the normal prompts that you would have to sit there and manually enter during the installation process, so it's pretty straightforward here. Enter your company specifics. And then you just continue through, just clicking through the wizard and entering in the specific information for your environment. And this is a new feature right here where we can pre-enter the product identification key, and by doing this it'll ensure that the installation of Windows XP won't stop and ask you to enter this information. So let's type this information in right now. And this is a fake key here, so don't think you're getting a free copy of Windows XP. It's just an example key that I'm typing in. And alphanumeric, you've got to love it. Lots of characters to type in to make typos. Test your typing savvy. So a nice feature there to pre-populate the product identification key. And at this point we have the opportunity to add in the computer name for just a single installation, a single unattended installation of Windows XP, or we can populate a uniqueness database file with the 5 to 5,000 computer names by importing a common delimited file, or have the installation process automatically generate unique computer names based on part of the organization name. So let's see how this would look. We could say Nuggets 1, Nuggets 2, and keep typing that out till you get your 5,000 names, or hopefully you've got a script somewhere with all the 5,000 computer names and you just import those names. And then just continue on through the process here. This field asks you to enter in the password for the local administrator account, and yes, it can be all the way up to 127 characters. We've got a paragraph we can type in here for a password. My users have a hard enough time remembering a 5-character password, let alone 127 characters. But a nice feature here is we can actually encrypt that password in the answer file. So let's type in a real basic password, encrypt that, and we can have the computer automatically start and log on as the administrator, which is used typically to run a batch file at the end of the installation process. And do we want to tweak the default network settings or just use the basic settings? The basic settings are TCP/IP as a DHCP client. Let's just go with the basic settings. And at this point we're asked during the installation process, do we want to remain in a workgroup or join a domain? If we want to join a domain, we have to enter in the domain name that we want to join. So let me type in the domain name, nuggetslab.com, and we have to type in the user credentials that has the rights to create and join a computer account to the domain. So typically most organizations will create a deployment group and give that deployment group the rights to add workstations to the domain. I'm just going to use my basic administrator account. Unfortunately, this password that I'm typing in right now is not encrypted, so watch out for that. And enter in any telephony settings. You can pre-populate that information. And any regional settings. Add any additional language groups for users that might speak Japanese, Chinese, anything like that. And we can pre-populate Internet Explorer settings with your proxy configurations. Save some time right there. And do we want to install Windows XP into Windows or a different folder? And would you like to install any network printers? And would you like a batch file to run? Or any additional commands? And then we're done. Now we just choose where we would like to save the file. And remember, we're placing the file into our crockpot. So let's find our crockpot, which is DC Nuggets. And here we go. We're going to place this file in our i386 directory. And click on the Okie dokie button. And we're off to the races. And we've created our answer file and our uniqueness database file, which contains our computer names that we had entered. And we're now ready to go to our target computer and launch the target computer with our network boot disk and start the installation process. So let's see how that works. So imagine, if you will, we've gone to our target computer, we've booted the computer with our network boot disk, and now we're sitting at a DOS prompt. The next step that we have to do is to connect to our distribution share, and we're going to use the netuse command to do that task, and we're going to use an available drive letter. How about the drive letter Z? And our distribution share is good old DC Nuggets i386. And now let's switch to that drive mapping. And the next step is to launch the installation process by using the winnt command, because we're in a DOS environment. Remember, the winnt32 command is used for upgrades only. And we're going to use the winnt command with the switches that we had learned about earlier. The first switch that we need to use is the S switch to point to our source files. Now we've just mapped our source files that are in the i386 directory to the drive letter Z. So we're going to point the S switch to the drive letter Z, which in turn points to the i386 directory. Now, in addition to starting the installation process, we want to automate the installation process. So we're going to use the U switch to automate the installation process by using our answer file called unattend.txt. And then the last piece to finish this all off is we want to automate this installation process for maybe hundreds of computers with unique information. So to include unique information during the installation process, we need to use the UDF switch and put in the unique ID of the computer, such as our Nuggets 1, then enter in the information of which file contains all the unique parameters, which is our uniqueness database file, which is unattend.udf as the default name for our uniqueness database file. And that's it. You just press the enter key, go to lunch, come back, and you'll be greeted by the Control-Alt-Delete box. Log on, download all the user settings with load state, and you're off to the races. So, that's all there is to it, folks. Next, we're going to look at how we can deploy Windows XP by using a third-party disk imaging tool in conjunction with Microsoft's System Preparation tool. So we've looked at several methods for deploying Windows XP. Another very common method for deploying an operating system is by using a third-party disk utility program to take a snapshot of an entire computer's hard drive and then apply that snapshot, which is called an image, to the target computer. And the benefit of that is the target computer will have the operating systems, the application, all the settings pre-configured and part of the image. So how that process takes place is, first we're going to go to a lab computer or some type of reference computer, install Windows XP, and then install any of our applications, and then configure the application settings, the operating system settings, make any tweaks that we need to make to this lab computer. And then, because this computer contains unique information such as our unique computer name and security identifiers, we need to run the System Preparation tool to effectively neuter the machine of all of its uniqueness. We're going to strip out the computer name. We're going to strip out those unique parameters. And after we've performed that task by running SysPrep on the target machine in our lab, then we're going to run our disk imaging software on that target machine. Then place that image on a network distribution SharePoint, place it on a CD medium, and then apply that image to your target computer. And when you apply that image, what's going to happen is, as a default, a little mini setup wizard is going to run just before the operating system starts up to ask you to put back all the unique information that was taken out, such as the computer name. This is where the Setup Manager can help you, save you some time. You can use the Setup Manager to create an answer file to answer all the prompts that would be presented by the mini setup wizard. So we're using two utilities here. We're using the Setup Manager to create the answer file for the mini setup wizard, and then we're using the System Preparation tool to strip out all the unique parameters to truly make this a fresh, clean install via a disk imaging solution. So let's take a look at the tools that we had used for creating a System Preparation installation. The first step in creating a SysPrep disk image is first to install the operating system on a computer in a lab, next install the applications, and then make any adjustments and tweaks and modifications to the settings of the operating system and the applications. And then the next thing you have to do is make sure that you remove the computer from the domain if it currently resides in a domain. This is due to the fact that Windows XP has unique security identifier information which we don't want applied to our target computers. So what we have to do is remove the computer from the domain first, which is done by going to the properties of my computer. So to do that, click on Start, right click on my computer, choose Properties from the flyout menu, then click on the Computer Name tab, and then from here we're going to click on the Change button. And this dialog box can be used to place the computer into a domain, which it already is in the nuggetlab.com domain, or remove it from a domain and place it into a workgroup. So you have to have domain credentials to finish this task. So you would place the computer into the workgroup, you would reboot the computer, and then once the computer is rebooted, then you can start the process of actually running SysPrep to prepare the computer to running a third-party disk imaging utility on it to create an image. And that's done by taking our SysPrep files that we had previously extracted and placing them in a special location. Let's take a look at that next by going to our C partition. And remember, we had extracted our SysPrep files from our deployment cabinet file, which was located in the Support Tools directory on our Windows XP CD, into our deploy folder on our C partition here. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our key files here and place them in a folder at the root of our system partition. In this case, it's our C partition called SysPrep. So we have to create a folder at our C partition called SysPrep first. Now that we've created that folder, we're going to take the factory executable, the setup CL executable, and the SysPrep executable, and move those files to our SysPrep folder that we've just created. take a look at that folder. Now, if we were to sysprep the machine right now, we could then run our disk utility program and then apply the image. The only thing with that is the mini setup wizard would run and prompt us to put the information back that sysprep had taken out. So to automate a sysprep install, run setup manager to create an answer file, and the default name for that answer file is called sysprep.inf. And sysprep.inf has to be placed in the same sysprep folder that contains the sysprep executable. So make sure all 4 of these files are contained in the sysprep folder. Run sysprep either by double-clicking on this executable, which you see here says if you go through with this, you've got some dire consequences. After you run this application, your computer will automatically shut down. It's going to neuter your machine of those unique parameters and basically sysprep it before the computer is imaged. So I'm not going to do that right now. I still need to use the computer. Thank you very much. I can hear you yelling in the background, "Okay, Todd, come on, click on the OK button, I dare you." No, thanks. We're going to click on cancel. So you can run the sysprep by using the GUI executable, or you can run the sysprep executable from a command prompt, which is what we're going to do next to see some of the switches that are involved with the sysprep executable as well. So let's take a look at that next. So we can run sysprep from the command prompt by dragging and dropping sysprep right into our command prompt. Gotta love it. Save yourself some typing time. Now we can just press the enter key and that will start sysprep and yank out all those unique parameters. However, if you're using the sysprep.inf file, the mini setup will not run or use the sysprep.inf file to automate the answer prompts unless you run sysprep with the switch called mini. So we have to run sysprep.exe with the mini switch, which is space -mini. And once you execute sysprep with this switch, when you apply the disk image, it will then look for the presence of the sysprep.inf file in the sysprep folder we placed on the root of the C partition, and then grab all the answer prompts from that file. So the chain of events that happens here is you press the enter key, automatically shuts down the computer. You image the computer, you place that image on a file server, on a CD, you apply that image to the target computer, and you've got a nice clean install of Windows XP with unique parameters, with unique computer names, with all unique security identifiers, and you've got your applications to boot, so you're ready to go. So you've just finished installing Windows XP and you're all set and ready to use your computer, but you've actually got one more thing to consider before you close the lid on the installation process, and that is, did you install Windows XP with the retail media or the volume license media of Windows XP? If you've installed Windows XP with the retail edition, that edition requires that you activate the computer within a 30-day grace period. And what activation is a Microsoft scheme to prevent software piracy of Windows XP. And how it works is activation prevents you from installing Windows XP on more than one computer with the same product identification key. So make sure you activate your computer within a 30-day grace period so you can continue using your computer past day 31. Okay, then what happens if you don't activate your computer within that 30 days? Well, what happens is when you boot your computer on day 31, you won't be able to log on to your computer. Okay, then how do I activate the computer? Is this a catch-22, Todd? Well, the Windows Product Activation Wizard will run at that point, asking you, at the logon screen, asking you, do you want to activate the computer? And if you choose yes, you can choose from 2 methods to activate your computer. You can activate it automatically over the internet, or you can grab from the Windows Product Activation Wizard a telephone number that's local to your area that you can call Microsoft with to get a 50 alphanumeric key number that you have to type in a Windows Product Activation screen to activate your computer. So once you've activated your computer, you can then continue using it. without being bothered with this activation little balloon that's going to pop up in your computer every once in a while. And if you installed Windows XP by using the volume license media, you don't have to worry about this activation stuff at all because it simply doesn't require activation, which is a nice thing. So, this is the very last thing you have to consider in the installation process of Windows XP. Well, in this video we've learned how to save all of our user state settings with the Files and Settings Transfer Wizard, and also by using the User State Migration tool. After that, we dug down deep into the Setup Manager, where we learned how to create an answer file for CD-based installations and over-the-network-based installations. And then we finished off by taking a look at Microsoft's System Preparation tool to create clone-based disk imaging deployments of Windows XP in conjunction with third-party disk imaging tools. And we also learned that we can use Setup Manager to create answer files to automate the SysPrep installation process as well. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.